Have you ever wondered why you feel different? Why is there this pull, this magnetic force, drawing you towards something greater, something unseen? You may not know it yet, but you could be one of the chosen ones. And if you are, then you've already begun the sacred work of guarding the spiritual world. It's not a title you earn, nor is it something you choose, it's something that chooses you. This is a truth that can both inspire and unsettle. But let me ask you, what if you were chosen to protect something invisible, something essential? Would you embrace your role, even if it meant walking a path few can see or understand? We live in a world where the material often overshadows the spiritual.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lessons.
Yet the spiritual world is the foundation upon which everything rests. It's the hidden blueprint of existence, the unseen network of energy, intention, and consciousness that shapes reality. And while most people move through life oblivious to this invisible realm, there are those who sense it, feel it, and are called to protect it. These individuals are the chosen ones. They come in many forms: warriors, healers, seekers, rebels, prophets, and more. Each of them carries a unique mission, a piece of the puzzle that, when combined, safeguards the delicate balance of the spiritual world. But how does one protect something so intangible? How do you defend the unseen? The answer lies not in physical strength or outward action alone, but in the quiet, deliberate cultivation of inner power. We protect the spiritual world by embodying its principles, by living as bridges between the physical and the divine. This is not an easy task. It demands self-awareness, discipline, and courage. And yet, the most profound acts of protection often go unnoticed by the world. They happen in moments of stillness, in choices made when no one is watching, in the silent battles fought within the soul. You see, the chosen ones are not just protectors, they are transformers. They don't merely guard the spiritual world, they elevate it. They bring light into darkness, healing into wounds, and truth into illusion. Each of us has a role to play, and understanding that role is the first step to fulfilling it. But here's a question for you. Do you truly know who you are? Do you truly understand why you've been called? The chosen ones are not perfect. They struggle, they doubt, they fall. But what sets them apart is their resilience, their ability to rise again, to keep moving forward no matter how heavy the burden. This is what makes them guardians. It's not their power or their wisdom, but their commitment to the mission. They understand that protecting the spiritual world is not about controlling it or owning it. It's about serving it. It's about being a vessel for something greater. Imagine a prophet who speaks divine truths that unsettle the world. Their words ripple through the collective consciousness, challenging lies and awakening souls. They are not always welcomed. In fact, they are often met with resistance, ridicule, even persecution. And yet they persist. Why? Because they understand that their words are not their own. They are conduits for messages that must be delivered, no matter the cost. They protect the spiritual world by ensuring that its truths are heard. Or consider the hermit who retreats into solitude, not out of fear or disdain, but out of reverence. In their isolation, they dive deep into the mysteries of existence, seeking wisdom that can only be found in the stillness of the soul. When they return, they bring with them insights that illuminate the path for others. They protect the spiritual world by preserving its ancient wisdom and sharing it with those who are ready to receive it. Then there's the healer, whose touch brings relief to the suffering, whose presence soothes the troubled heart. The healer's work is often quiet and unseen, yet its impact is profound. They protect the spiritual world by restoring balance, by mending what is broken, by reminding us of our innate wholeness. But let me ask you, when was the last time you allowed yourself to be healed? When was the last time you acknowledged the wounds you carry? We cannot protect the spiritual world if we neglect our own inner world. This is a truth that every chosen one must face. To be a guardian of the unseen, you must first confront the unseen within yourself. You must face your fears, your doubts, your shadows. This is not an easy process. It requires honesty, humility, and patience. But it is also a sacred process, one that transforms not only you but the world around you. As chosen ones, we are called to live with intention. Every thought, every word, every action becomes an offering, a contribution to the spiritual world. This is a responsibility, yes, but it is also a gift. For in serving the spiritual world, we find our own purpose. We find the meaning that so many seek but few truly discover. And so I leave you with this question: what is your mission? What is the unique role you've been called to play in protecting the spiritual world? Take a moment to reflect on this. Feel it in your heart, not just in your mind. The answer may not come right away, but it is there, waiting for you. When we speak of protecting the spiritual world, we must acknowledge an undeniable truth. There are forces in this existence that seek to disrupt, distort, and drain the spiritual essence of life. These forces are not always external. Sometimes the most menacing battles are fought within ourselves. As chosen ones, we are not immune to darkness. In fact, we are often the ones who face it most directly, for it is only by confronting it that we can transform it. But let me ask you this: if you were to look into your own soul, what shadows would you find? What unseen battles are you already fighting? The spiritual world is a realm of balance. Light and dark, creation and destruction, expansion and contraction all coexist in a delicate harmony. But when the forces of darkness grow unchecked, when fear, greed, and ignorance take root, the balance begins to tip. This is where the chosen ones step in. We are not here to eliminate the darkness that is neither possible nor desirable. Darkness is a teacher, a mirror, a necessary counterpart to the light. But we are here to prevent it from consuming the light entirely. We are here to confront it, to understand it, and to transmute it. What does this confrontation look like? It is not always dramatic or visible. Sometimes it is as simple as choosing love when hatred tempts you. Sometimes it is as profound as forgiving someone who has hurt you deeply. These acts may seem small, but they ripple through the spiritual world in ways we cannot fully comprehend. They are acts of rebellion against the forces that seek to divide, destroy, and diminish. Consider the empath, who feels the weight of the world's pain. For them, the forces of darkness often manifest as overwhelming emotions: grief, anger, despair. They absorb these energies from others, sometimes without even realizing it. And yet, their ability to feel so deeply is also their greatest strength. By processing and transforming these emotions within themselves, they become alchemists of the soul. They protect the spiritual world by ensuring that the pain they encounter does not spread unchecked. But this comes at a cost. Empaths must learn to protect their own energy, to set boundaries, to care for themselves as much as they care for others. Let me ask you, have you been carrying pain that isn't yours? Have you allowed the emotions of others to overshadow your own truth? The warrior, on the other hand, confronts darkness head-on. They are the ones who step into the fray, who challenge injustice, who defend the vulnerable. Their battles are often external, but the true struggle lies within. For the warrior, the greatest enemy is not the darkness they face, but the darkness they risk becoming. It is all too easy for the warrior to lose themselves in anger, to become consumed by the fight, to forget what they are fighting for. This is why the warrior's path is one of discipline and self-awareness. They must constantly return to their center, to their higher purpose. They must learn to wield their strength without letting it corrupt them. So I ask you, what battles are you fighting? And are you fighting them from a place of love or fear? Then there is the rebel, who challenges the systems and structures that perpetuate darkness. The rebel's greatest weapon is their authenticity, their refusal to conform to a world that has lost its way. But this path is not without its trials. The rebel often stands alone, misunderstood and rejected. They are labeled as troublemakers, outcasts, even threats. And yet, their courage to speak truth to power, to question the status quo, is what sparks change. They protect the spiritual world by dismantling the illusions that keep us trapped. However, the rebel must also guard against their own ego. The desire to be right, to win, to prove others wrong, these can become traps that lead them away from their true mission. So I ask you, where in your life are you being called to rebel? And is your rebellion rooted in love and truth, or in anger and pride? The healer, too, confronts the forces of darkness, though their battles are often quieter. They face the wounds of the world, the broken hearts, the weary souls, the aching bodies, and they work to mend them. But in doing so, they risk becoming drained, depleted, even disillusioned. A healer who neglects their own well-being cannot heal others for long. This is why self-care is not a luxury for healers, it is a necessity. They must learn to balance their giving with receiving, their doing with being. They must remember that their worth is not measured by how much they help others, but by the love and presence they bring to each moment. Let me ask you, have you been neglecting your own healing in your efforts to heal others? Have you forgotten that you too are deserving of care? The seeker, driven by an insatiable thirst for truth, confronts the darkness of ignorance. They dive deep into the mysteries of existence, unraveling the layers of illusion that obscure the spiritual world. But the seeker's journey is not without its perils. The search for truth can be isolating, even disorienting. The more they uncover, the more they realize how much they do not know. And in their quest for answers, they risk losing sight of the present moment, of the simple joys and connections that make life meaningful. This is why the seeker must balance their quest with humility and gratitude. They must remember that the journey itself is the destination. So I ask you, what truths are you seeking? And are you willing to let go of your need for certainty in order to find them? In the end, the battles we fight as chosen ones are not about defeating the darkness, but about integrating it. The spiritual world does not need saviors, it needs guardians who understand the interplay of light and dark, who can hold both with grace and wisdom. This is the essence of spiritual protection, to stand as a beacon of balance, to embody the harmony we wish to see in the world. But make no mistake, this is not a passive role. It requires vigilance, courage, and unwavering commitment. It requires us to face our own shadows, to heal our own wounds, to grow through our own struggles. For the greatest act of protection we can offer the spiritual world is to become who we are meant to be. When we live authentically, when we align with our highest selves, we create a ripple effect that touches everything and everyone around us. This is how we protect the spiritual world, not by shielding it from harm, but by illuminating it with our presence. And so, I leave you with this question: what darkness have you been avoiding? What part of yourself, of the world, have you been unwilling to face? The answers to these questions hold the key to your role as a guardian of the spiritual world. Have you ever considered what it truly means to be a beacon of light in this world? Not just someone who exists, but someone who radiates, someone whose very presence alters the spiritual fabric of the places they inhabit. This is the essence of a chosen one, not to simply fight battles or fulfill duties, but to embody the light that transforms everything it touches. And yet, this light is not something external. It is not something you acquire or earn. It is something you uncover, something you awaken within yourself. So let me ask you, are you ready to embrace the light within you? Are you ready to let it transform not only the spiritual world, but the physical world as well? This light is not passive. It is not soft or fleeting. It is a force alive, powerful, and unyielding. It is the essence of love, truth, and wisdom, and it burns within every chosen one, waiting to be unleashed. But here's the paradox: in order to awaken this light, you must first confront your darkness. You must enter the shadows of your own soul, not to dwell there, but to retrieve the parts of yourself you have abandoned. For the light within you is not separate from the darkness, it is born from it. It is the alchemy of pain and love, of struggle and grace, that creates the radiance you are meant to embody. When a chosen one awakens this light, it is not just for their own benefit. The spiritual world thrives on connection, on the exchange of energy, intention, and consciousness. Your light is not yours alone, it is a gift to the world. It is meant to inspire, to heal, to guide. But this doesn't mean you must be perfect. In fact, your imperfections are what make your light accessible to others. It is your humanity, your willingness to be vulnerable, to be real, that draws people to you. Have you ever noticed how someone's authenticity can move you more deeply than their perfection? This is the power of your light, not to shine despite your flaws, but to shine through them. The prophet, for example, transforms the world through the clarity of their vision. They see beyond the illusions of the material world, beyond the noise and chaos, into the heart of truth. Their words are not just words, they are seeds, planted in the minds and hearts of those who hear them. These seeds may take time to grow, but when they do, they bear fruit that nourishes the soul. The prophet's light is a beacon for those lost in the darkness of confusion, illuminating paths they could not see on their own. But this light comes at a cost. Prophets often feel the weight of their message, the loneliness of seeing what others cannot. So I ask you, what truths have you been called to speak? And are you willing to bear the burden of being misunderstood in order to share them? The hermit, on the other hand, transforms the world not through action but through being. Their light is a quiet flame, steady and unwavering, that burns in the solitude of their inner sanctuary. It is in their stillness that they find wisdom, and it is in their wisdom that they find their purpose. When the hermit emerges from their solitude, they carry with them a presence that is grounding, calming, and deeply transformative. They remind us of the power of silence, of the richness that can be found when we turn inward. But the hermit's journey is not without its challenges. Isolation can be both a gift and a test, a space for growth, but also a temptation to withdraw too much. So I ask you, have you been avoiding the world in the name of solitude? Or have you been using solitude to prepare yourself to re-enter the world with greater clarity and strength? The healer's light shines through their touch, their voice, their compassion. They transform the world by restoring balance, by mending what has been broken, by reminding us of our inherent wholeness. A healer does not impose their light on others, they simply create a space where others can find their own. This is the true gift of the healer, not to fix, but to facilitate. And yet, the healer's light is often tested by the weight of the suffering they encounter. It is easy to feel overwhelmed, to feel that their efforts are never enough. But the healer must remember that even the smallest act of kindness can have a profound impact. So I ask you, where in your life can you bring healing? And have you been kind enough to yourself to allow your own light to shine? The empath transforms the world through their deep connection to the emotions of others. Their light is their sensitivity, their ability to feel what others cannot or will not. This is both their gift and their challenge. The empath's light is like water. It flows into the cracks, dissolving barriers, and bringing nourishment to the dry and barren places of the soul. But water can also erode, and the empath must learn to contain their light, to direct it with intention rather than allowing it to be scattered. So I ask you, have you been pouring your light into places that do not nourish you in return? And are you willing to redirect it toward what truly matters? The rebel's light is fire. It burns away the old, the false, the stagnant, making way for new growth. The rebel transforms the world by challenging it, by refusing to accept what no longer serves the greater good. Their light is confrontational, but it is also creative. It sparks change, ignites passion, and fuels transformation. But fire must be tended, or it can consume everything in its path. The rebel must learn to balance their desire for change with the wisdom to know what to preserve. So I ask you, what in your life needs to be burned away, and what needs to be protected? The warrior's light is strength, steady, unyielding, and protective. They transform the world by standing firm in the face of adversity, by defending what is sacred, by embodying the courage that others draw upon in times of fear. The warrior's light is not just about fighting, it is about standing. It is about holding the line, about being a pillar of stability in a world that often feels unstable. But the warrior must also know when to lay down their sword, when to rest, when to let others step forward. So I ask you, are you fighting battles that are truly yours to fight? Or are you carrying the weight of battles that no longer serve you? The seeker transforms the world by expanding it. Their light is curiosity, wonder, and the relentless pursuit of truth. They remind us that life is not a destination but a journey, and that the journey itself is sacred. The seeker's light shines brightest when they share what they have learned, when they invite others to explore the mysteries of existence alongside them. But the seeker must guard against the temptation to hoard knowledge, to keep their light hidden out of fear that it will be misunderstood. So I ask you, what truths have you discovered, and who might benefit from the light of your discoveries? Ultimately, the light within us is not something we create, it is something we uncover. It is always there, waiting to be revealed. And as chosen ones, our task is not just to awaken our own light, but to inspire others to awaken theirs. This is how we transform the world, not by imposing our light on others, but by reminding them that they too carry the light within them. So I leave you with this final question: what would the world look like if every soul remembered their light? And what role are you playing in helping others remember? Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for the light that you bring to the world. Until next time, stay grounded, stay present, and never forget the power you hold as a chosen one.